Hi, it's Timo. Welcome to Norwich City Central.
Hello everybody, Lewis, Norwich City Central. I hope you're all doing well. Norwich City 0, West Ham United 4. Norwich City relegated from the Premier League, and out of all the relegations, you have to feel this is the most gutless, the one which lacks fight the most. Norwich City were absolutely dreadful today. A fifth relegation. A record relegation. No team has been relegated more from the Premier League, just terrible today. Norwich City 0, West Ham 4. West Ham were fighting. West Ham was 16th, so let's be honest. Norwich City weren't exactly playing a Manchester City or a Chelsea who we got coming out. This is a team who is 16th place, but West Ham deserved to win the game. They deserved to win the game 4-0 and absolutely tore us apart. And well done to West Ham. And as for Norwich, you can tell from my voice, I'm absolutely gutted. I'm quite angry as well. I'm disappointed. It's all those feelings. After a magical 18-19 season, Norwich City have been relegated, and it was just an absolutely terrible performance, which kind of sums up how they've been after lockdown. There's just no fight. It was gutless. All the players seemed disinterested, and that's what annoys me. I think if you had fans there, would fans have made a difference? Yeah, I don't think we'd have seen the players give up like the way they did. But look, regardless, throughout the whole season, we've not been good enough, and there's serious questions need to be asked. And serious questions need to be asked to Daniel Farke as well. Has he lost the dressing room? That's going to be really interesting to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. But absolutely gutted. And with this Norwich City model, you want to sell your young players now. They've had this Premier League experience. Ben Godfrey's valued at £50 million. That is utterly ridiculous. £50 million, probably 5 million he's worth, if that. You've got to cash in on your youngsters now. The whole point of you bringing youngsters into the squad is you develop them and then you sell them. For a club like Norwich, you then sell them on and then you bring in the next group of youngsters. So you sell Jamal Lewis for, I don't know, 10, 15 million pounds. You bring in a Sound Callum. You sell Max Aarons, you bring in the next youngster, That's what Norwich City need to do. They need to sell their young players for big money, bring in the new youngsters, but ultimately reinvest in the squad. Why not spend 10 million on a Dennis Mann to try and help us get out of the Championship? Because, yes, these signings don't always work out, but there needs to be some reinvestment into this squad. And some players who don't want to be here, they need to leave because there was a lack of fight, and it's not what anyone deserves. And I do feel a little bit for Daniel Farke. He's given so many of these youngsters and so many of these players an opportunity to shine, and they've simply given up for him. And that's the question: has he lost the dressing room? And when you do lose the dressing room for a manager, it's normally time they leave. Looking at the game, Norwich City, it was just so predictable, wasn't it? So predictable. Norwich City had a lot of the ball without hurting West Ham, and every time Norwich City lost the ball, West Ham counter-attacked dangerously, and every time they had a corner or a set piece, I think they pretty much won every single header and a corner from a set piece. And that's something which you've got to have a criticism for Daniel Farke. I'm sorry, but in his first season at Norwich City Football Club, we conceded so many set pieces. Even in that Championship winning season, there's a stat up there: no team has scored more proportion of goals from set pieces, and even in the Championship. I think we conceded I don't know how many goals we conceded compared to the rest of the team, but I think 10 teams conceded less than us. So it wasn't like we was keeping a lot of clean sheets. And yet again, we've come to the Premier League. We haven't signed no centre backs. We've looked defensively naive. A lot of the pundits said Norwich City have come up and been naive. A lot of Norwich City fans disagreed, but let's be real, they were right. We were naive defensively. We have been naive defensively. And we conceded so many set pieces. The first one, Antonio from a corner. I think Mario Rancic doesn't win the header, and Antonio scores to make it 1-0. And they created so many chances. I think Aaron's got caught out on many occasions from Antonio. Bowen went close on a lot of occasions. And although you've been calling for players like Mario Rancic and Marcus Cheatham to come in, let's be real, you've been crying out for them to come in, and they've not been good enough themselves. The whole squad haven't been good enough. They've all given up. And serious, questions have to be answered now. And I do feel for Farke because I've given them an opportunity, and for whatever reason, it's not working out. Very interesting at the drinks break, 23 minutes into the game, Daniel Farke sat there. He just sat there, didn't say anything, and I've never seen that before, where a manager's just completely ignores his players. You're 1-0 down in a game. You need to rally them up. You need to be the leader. You're the manager. You're meant to be the leader. And just to sit there, that is some serious concerns, isn't it? Farke, why did he sit there? Why did he not talk to them? I don't know. Yeah, but clearly the players seem disinterested. And yeah, looking at some of the, I've just put a lot of my notes up, and they're just all West Ham chances. It just shows Norwich City lack that creativity. Going forward, they seemed all on different wavelengths. Krul made a couple of good saves, and obviously for West Ham to make it 2-0, you got Tim Closer, a 6'2" defender, Ben Godfrey, a 6'2" defender, and Antonio, a 5'10" midfielder. He managed to jump both of them in the air out comfortably. It was so easy for him, even though he's like 4 or 5 inches shorter, and he dispatches it into the bottom corner. And that shows that defensively, yet again from set pieces, we've been so naive. And Tim Close is not our best centre back. Grant Hanley is, in my opinion. And as I said, I would cash in on the likes of Ben Godfrey and Max Aarons and bring in the new youngsters and reinvest into the squad. That's what we should have done in the summer to help Daniel Farke out. And yeah, it's going to be big now for Webber and Farke's legacy next season, because look, if you think Norwich City are going to play the attacking football like they did in the Championship when we go down, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, because when we got promoted to the Premier League, you saw we're still playing this attacking football. We're playing teams like West Ham, Brighton, Southampton. No disrespect, they're not quality teams, and we're struggling to create any chances. I don't know if we had even had a shot on target this game. Yeah, cash in, reinvest into the squad, and that's what you got to do. In the second half, West Ham were comfortable. Norwich City, I think they lacked any leaders. That's an important word to say, leader. No player really on the pitch barking instructions. You look at previous years, people like Bradley Johnson, Grant Holt, those kind of players we've had through the years. There's no player really barking instructions. There's no leaders. And that's really detrimental. In terms of West Ham in the second half, as I said, looked comfortable on the ball. Norwich City didn't know when to press or sit back. And Ben Godfrey was run rings around. For the third goal, Antonio runs past him easy. He's one-on-one against Tim Krul. Tim Krul makes a save, and Antonio reacts to the second ball just to nod it into the back of the net to make it 3-0. And Antonio scored his 4th goal, probably Antonio's game of his career. I think it was Fredericks gets in behind our defence. No player decides to press him. He has 5 seconds to kind of pick out a pass and passes it into Antonio to make it 4-0. And Norwich City, relegated from the Premier League for a 5th time. When you consider the amount of money we've signed, it's not a surprise. We could have sold the likes of Ben Godfrey and Max Aarons in the summer 2019 for 20 million, then we would have had a bit of money to spend, but we didn't, and I agree with that decision. But now, going into the new Championship season, you need to replace some of these players, and you need to spark some new life, new creativity into the team. You can do that by replacing your manager. You can do that by replacing your players. Firstly, it's got to start with the players. You've got to sell some of the youngsters, as I said, for big money, and reinvest it into the squad. Sign the likes of Dennis Mann, See, it's as simple as that. But there's going to be lots of questions about who's to blame for this relegation. But quite simply, after the lockdown, we've been absolutely dreadful. And pre-lockdown, we did well. Tottenham was a very proud day, one which we showed fight. Leicester before was excellent, and even Man United in the cup, which was after lockdown, you could see the effort was there to try and win the cup. But there's this defeatist attitude with Norwich City where they lack the ability to pick themselves up and go again when times are hard for them. It's all right playing pretty football for the first 10-15 minutes, but there's no fight, and as soon as they go a goal down, there's not that character which we had last season where we knew we'd come back. And when that character goes, it's sometimes very hard to reignite that back into the team. But absolutely gutted with this, obviously a 5th relegation. And it's very, very sad, isn't it? You can see Alex Tettey in his post-match interview, very sad. And I'm very interested to see what Daniel Farke has got to say on this, because there needs to be some accountability and responsibility. I feel for Farke, even with the likes of Mario Ranjic and Marcus Duberman, they've not really improved the team. We've still looked really poor. And whether that's Daniel Farke's tactics, whether it's all the players being disinterested and giving up, you don't know. But it's massively important we rebuild for next season now. If we're going to keep Daniel Farke, which I probably expect we will do, Farke needs to keep the dressing room for starters, and we need to sign players who are going to spice up the dressing room and help improve the players. That's pretty much it. In terms of player performances, you can't really see any player deserving more than a 4. I thought Buendia looked lively, but none of the players running behind. There was a moment where Max Aarons, shouted, the mic picked it up to tell players to move. As I said, that shows all the players were on different wavelengths. So it's a very sad day for Norwich, and it's going to be big now for Farke and Webber, and big for the players to see what kind of character they've got now after relegation. Are they going to be up for the fight? Are they going to show that they care? And it's never easy being a Norwich City fan, is it? But that is my review. Fan reaction to come, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you for all the support on the channel. It's been great. Unfortunately, the Premier League has ended for Norwich City in a dull and heartbreaking fashion. Thank you for watching. Norwich City 0, West Ham 4. Subscribe to Norwich City Central if you're new, and I'll see you later.